Alright, Schlockmeisters fans, otherwise known as Dracula's dog, it's Zoltan, Hound of Dracula. Let's check it out. Hound. Okay, depending on what source you read, this is either the Russian or the Romanian army. And they're blasting because they're trying to find stuff. And eventually they're going to find a tomb.
Like a giant tomb.
Sure shit, that's what they find. Oh, named Dracula.
I'll tell headquarters we need an archaeologist.
They leave a guard posted, and then an earthquake hits, which unleashes a coffin. Well, the dude just had to open it up, and he finds a dog with a stake through it. So naturally, you pull the stake out. And we all know what happens when you do that. In this case, it's a vampire dog. And then we get a flashback to what happened 300 years earlier. This dog rescued this woman from being bitten by Dracula. Dracula was so pissed, turned into a vampire bat, and decided to bite the dog and turn it. Well, the dog pulls out another coffin, sees a stake driven through this guy, which, by the way, is not Dracula. It's Veit Smith, his master, who you might recognize as Reggie Nalder. Immediately comes to life. Now his master, of course, is Dracula.
We must find our new master.
But then an earthquake hits and they gotta get the hell out of that tomb.
Vampire Dracula's left me.
Enter Jose Ferrer, Inspector.
I discovered that about 30 years ago, young Michael Dracula, the last of the Dracula line, was taken out of this country for his own safety.
And where is he now?
In America.
So Reggie Nalder, who's not quite a vampire, he's like a half vampire, he can be out in the daylight. He and the dog go to America because they gotta find a new Dracula because their master's gone, and the last of the Dracula line is in LA. And that would be Michael Drake. Drake, not Dracula. Played by Michael Pataki. He and his family are gonna go on a vacation the next day. So they're off on their family vacation. Unbeknownst to them, Reggie Nalder and Zoltan, that Hound of Dracula, are in hot pursuit. So the family goes out in the woods somewhere, and these two are following. The dog's in the box, of course. Zoltan goes after them, but then the family has dogs of their own, and apparently Zoltan's afraid of the family dog. So anyway, they had a couple of puppies they took on their trip as well, and one of them died in the night, and they thought it got bit by a rattlesnake. It was actually bit by one of the vampire dogs. So they buried it, and now that puppy is coming back to life. And when they're not killing or going after the family, they're killing other people too. Like this poor fella. And the dog attacks the family. But he's wearing a cross around his neck and took off. Seems like the dogs are always attacking. But I guess they're scared of guns.
The tomb collapsed.
Inspector also comes and confronts them.
We discovered that two of the coffins were empty. We determined that one of the missing corpses was a creature who is only part vampire. Your great-grandfather used him as his servant.
He wants to get rid of him.
What can we do? We must dispose of Schmidt.
respect it. He realize what you're saying.
It is either him or you and your family. How? In this situation, weapons are useless. I have some wooden stakes in the car. I will show you how to use them.
As they discuss their plan, the attack dogs come.
I doubt it.
They're doing what they can to get in there. And eventually they're successful. But they don't kill him.
At last, Zoltan.
They want his blood. They want him to be a Dracula.
Waited for this moment. Our journey must come to an end. We cannot survive without a master and a light. Go.
The inspector then gets into a fight with Reggie. A fight that Reggie's gonna lose. But there's more attacks on the way. This time Michael's trying to get away in a convertible.
Jump in the back.
He lets his own dog in the car,
Where the hell have you been?
but guess what? As the dogs rage outside, he has no choice but to kill the family pet by staking it. Finally, we come to the big standoff between Zoltan and Michael. But Michael has that necklace, remember?
But it's over. What do we do with the dead animal?
Burn them. All of them.
As they burn the animals, the last scene in the movie, you remember that puppy that came out of the ground? All right, let's talk about Zoltan, Hound of Dracula. This is a movie that I had on a beta tape. I rented it from City News and Video in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, probably in 1986, under the title Dracula's Dog. I think I had it on the same tape with the April Fool's Day and something else, can't remember. But anyway, I never watched the movie back then. I've seen it a couple times since then, and it's an okay horror movie. It came out in 1977, I believe. Rated R, although I don't know why. There is some gore in it, and it's actually some pretty decent gore. No nudity or anything like that, though. But anyway, the story starts in, I guess, Romania, and this army is doing some exploding some things. They're not at war. They're just exploding some things, and they find this tomb. And inside that tomb, there's like 6 graves or something like that. Like it's like they're entombed in the wall. So they put a guard there to watch it so nobody loots the place. And that night there's an earthquake, and it dislodges one of the coffins. It pops out. And the guy, of course, the guard has to take a look inside of it, and he sees it's a dog wrapped up with a stake through it. He's like, what the hell's that all about? So naturally, he decides to pull the stake out, which we all know, if you do that to a vampire, it comes back to life. And that's what happens. The dog comes out, attacks him, and I guess kills the guy. Next thing you know, the dog removes the lid from another coffin that had dislodged, and that inside there was Reggie Nalder, who was its owner, also had a stake through him. He pulled the stake out. Reggie Nalder comes back to life. and they were going, I think they were going to try to release Dracula, who was inside one of those as well, but they decided they couldn't because another earthquake started to come. They had to get out of there real quick, and I guess it all collapsed on itself. Whatever. Anyway, we find out that there is a descendant of Dracula named Michael Drake living in California. So Reginalder and the dog, Zoltan, decide to go to California to find this guy so they can make him the new Dracula. Meanwhile, Jose Ferrer plays this Inspector Blanco, I think was his name, and he knows what's going on, so he decides, and he's a good guy, so he decides to go to California also to track down Michael Drake to warn him. And Michael Drake is with his family. They have some dogs, by the way, wife and 2 kids. They're in a Winnebago, and they're in the woods somewhere camping. And Reginalder and Zoltan show up. They start wreaking havoc all over the place, trying to attack them. They never really get close to the family that much. I mean, they do attack, but they never really get to bite or anything like that. Jose Ferrer shows up and tells them the whole story. He's like, we got to eliminate all of them. So there's a bunch of attacks. Ultimately, Reginalder gets into a fight with the inspector. The inspector ends up staking Reginalder, kills him. They end up staking all the dogs too, and then they think everything's fine. But then again, there was a puppy earlier in the film who had died by being bit. They buried it. They thought it was bit by a rattlesnake. But that puppy came back to life out of the ground, and that's how the movie ends, with a freeze frame on that dog, as if to say we're going to have a sequel, Zoltan Hound of Dracula 2. Never happened, at least not yet. So anyway, that is the movie. Michael Pataki plays Michael Drake. Michael Drake, the descendant of Dracula. Reginalder, of course, you know him from Salem's Lot. He played Barlow, the main vampire in that one. His face is burned. He suffered some sort of burns in his life, and I guess I remember looking this up once. There was never a really good story or a clear story as to what exactly happened to him, why his face was burned like that, disfigured. I think it was something that happened when he was a child, or maybe like a late teen or something like that. But the story was never clear, and it's just gone. And whatever happened to him, nobody knows. So. But anyway, that is Zoltan Hound of Dracula. I have the DVD here put up by Anchor Bay. I've had it for maybe 20 years, long time. I'm pretty sure there's a Blu-ray of this as well. And I'll leave a link to that down below if you're looking to get it. So anyway, that's about it. So anyway, Zoltan Hound of Dracula, aka Dracula's Dog. It's okay. Not a bad film. It's okay. I've seen far worse. I've seen far worse recently too. So check it out. Let me know what you think about it. Leave some comments down below. It's Dracula's Dog. Watch it. Bye.